I spent yesterday on the project to determine whether I should replace these cloth rollers with a ramp here. I really appreciate the feedback I got on the previous video. I'll link that below. Check that out to get some context. But I am more convinced now than I was before that I just want to get rid of those rollers. almost called them a bad name there. And here's why. Yesterday, what I did is I took a lot of this apart. So a couple really good pieces of feedback I got on attempts to keep the roller and why I should keep them, the two rollers. And one of them was in relation to the brushes. And so let's take a look at those brushes and talk about just real quick why the solution I don't think is going to work. So these brushes right here, there's a gap right now between the cloth and the brush. And the gap is everywhere. There's actually 4 brushes. There's 2 on each belt, 1 on each side of the belt. There's 2 belts, right? 1, 2. And what I did yesterday is I removed those because I bought brushes. At the time I bought them to replace these in case something happened. And then what I could potentially do and tried yesterday is replace my brushes with from these, right? So I took this off. These brushes slide out, and so this mounting piece I could reuse if I wanted to. These brushes slide out. I had my brush, I slid it in. I got extremely long brushes, which I would need to trim down. I tried several different options and there were no easy ones. It's possible. Scissors was the best option. They cut the best. It was just time consuming. But while I was in here doing that, one of the things I noticed, and something that will continue to be a problem and a risk if the brushes and the belts stay in, is that back, I don't know if we're going to be able to see it. Back there, there is where one of the bolts from the roller and how the roller is secured, back in the shadow, at the end of the brush, basically behind that, there is a bolt that is rubbing on the cloth right now. And I didn't know that until I took this brush off. But eventually that's just going to tear the belt apart. And that problem happens because they're not balanced. The 2 rollers are not balanced. So let me show you that real quick. This is the end of the machine, left side in the previous view we were looking at. And what you'll notice right now is that, see all the silver on the roller here? There's basically none over here. It's because these are out of alignment. These being the distance from this to the end of the other roller and this to the end of the other roller. And so I messed around with that yesterday. I tightened, I adjusted, I ran the machine. This belt piece, I didn't run the whole thing, I just needed to run that in an attempt to realign them, and it didn't work. Couldn't get that squared away. Basically I would have to loosen everything, including on this side, which is a giant pain in the neck. I would have to loosen everything, reset the entire belt, and then realign again at that point. And over time, I've done that once. And it was not fun. And over time, what has happened is you can see it slowly worked itself over here. And so, yes, I can go realign and readjust and yada, yada, yada. But even if, we're making some assumptions. The assumption I'm making is that the spacing from the end of this one to the other one and the end of this one to the other one is accurate and consistent. Even if because if it's not, we're out of balance. And even if I imbalance it the other way, right? It's stretching the wrong. It's going to eventually fail. Additionally, this belt, I have no idea if the belt was built properly and if it's completely equal on both sides, or if it's been stretched, tightened, too much one way by me, or when they were putting it together. I'm going to blame me because there's that potential. And so it just could be stretched on one side versus the other. And so there's just so many failure points with this thing, and it's not serving what the intended purpose is for. I don't need the output from this, right? So this is the inactive worm exit. And so the point of this is the larvae, the mealworms, fall onto the belt and the upper belt. They hold on to the cloth, and as it turns this way, they get dumped down into the sifting plates, or on the top when they get dumped off and come through to this one. And the intent is that the inactive worm, that mealworm is ready to pupate. And so those you don't want mixed in with the final live mealworms that you're going to ship out or process. And so the theory and goal of this belt system is that the live active mealworms hang on, get thrown into that, get sifted out, and you use them. The inactive mealworms and the pupa come through here and fall out into a tray so that you can collect them and do what you want with them. That's not purposeful for me. It doesn't help for two reasons. First one is my pupa never make it to here, and here's why. The whole sifting process starts up here, and I have a tray, a black tray with chicken wire mesh that sits in here that I pour the trays into, and it catches all the pupa. So the pupa don't even go through that. And they shouldn't, because it's going to vibrate the bejesus out of them and it'll probably not do real well. So they sit in the top here for a little bit, and then I take them out. So they don't even end up in the machine. And what I've noticed out of what comes out of this, as far as inactive, are still very active mealworms, and they don't automatically pupate. Here's the example from the last harvest. You can see pupa in here, right? But that's because they sat for the last 4 days. I didn't put them in the cool room or in my office, which is the cool room. And so they're going to pupate because they've been stressed. But it's a low percentage. And so this belt system, for what it's doing and the risk that I have, it seems ill-advised to make myself continually dependent on it. And so I don't see the point in keeping it. And worst case scenario, if the ramp plan doesn't work, and I'm going to talk about how I'm going to test that in a moment, but if that gets in here and just a ramp from where they drop down out of the frass sifter to this way, if that doesn't work, I can put the belt system back in. I'm not going to break it, right? So everything there's a connector, there's bolts, there's the rollers, like all of that can be put back in, assuming I don't break it getting it out. But if for some reason, once this gets in operation, I remove the belts, remove the rollers, it's a full void in there. There are two brushes that go across the underside of the belt, but both of those there's screws or bolts connecting those, so those can come out as well. So it's a free open void that I can put whatever I want in there. And so the plan is to just build myself a little ramp. So there's the 2D drawing of it. So I need a piece of metal that's 18 inches long that will catch where the mealworms fall off and get rerouted this way. It's 18 inches, I guess, deep from this perspective, and it's 58 inches from up here down to here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the material for it, I'm going to build it, and I'm going to test it before I touch these belts. I'm just going to leave everything here, let it run how it's running, and mealworms coming out, and then test that drop and run. I can simulate that outside of the machine after I build the ramp, essentially, or slide. We'll call it a slide. So I can test that, right? Like the drop up there is, let's say 6 inches, 5 inches. I'll measure it. I'll have a mock table set up, and then they'll fall, and we'll see if they make it all the way down to here without any assistance, vibration, anything. My presumption is that with enough drop, and I think it was a 8-inch drop. trying to remember what I did yesterday. I'm pretty sure that was an 8-inch drop. Because I can go down to where the sifting plate is over here, where it starts down in here. I don't need to come to this. I can come down this way, so I can give it more angle. But the slide is going to have channel on each, on the back side and the front side. It'll have U channel, I think, is what I've got, aluminum U channel. And so what I believe is going to happen is they'll fall off of that, they'll come off of the frass sifter and fall down, hit this ramp. So let me walk over there real quick. Not a ramp, we'll call it the diverter, because that's what it is. If you flip this the other way, it bypasses all the sifting, all the everything, and you can just dump worms out the big output. And so it's going to have to, like, my slide is going to start underneath this. I'm real close here. It's going to start underneath this and basically catch everything as it comes off of here. Okay. And so my presumption is that as they're falling off of that diverter onto my slide and going this way, there will be enough force and volume to push them down. And here's what I need to be careful of. I'm going to come over to the pupa sifter. One of my problems with this pupa sifter is that in certain cases the pupa will hatch and there'll be some beetles, and the beetles will be able to climb up this. And this is I believe this is a steeper drop than what will be over there. And so, as you can see, this is building up some dust, and I think that they can climb it. And so one of the things that, as I test it with the larva, the beetles don't go through it. The beetles also get caught in that upper sifter. But I will need to check and see, like, after it gets dirty, like, let's get it dusty, let's get it dirty. How does it work? And maybe I need to spray this down with like a food grade silicone so that it's slippery. Somebody did mention in one of the comments using hockey rink material, and because it's real slippery, right? My problem with that is cost and sourcing it. If something were to happen and it breaks, I want to try to find something at a generic hardware store at first. And so I'm going to look at materials that are available there and see what's slippery, and just mock something up and see what we can do. But that's where I'm at there. I think that, you know, even with the other thing is, let's pretend for a moment that all of this gets in sync and I adjust it and it's running smoothly, the brushes are hitting perfectly, everything's great. That canvas is going to stretch over time. And so I'm going to have to re-mess with it, re-tighten it, re-stretch it, whatever. And it's just not worth the hassle and the potential risk. If I can remove that risk, I'll be super happy. It's just going to depend on how the slide does from one side to the other. Could potentially add in some vibration there, right? Like, there's a controller that currently controls this on and off. I could potentially use that with some sort of vibrator on the top part or in the middle to just kind of shake them and make sure they don't get a grip on stuff and they slide down. But we'll just see how the testing goes and then tackle it from there. So any thoughts or suggestions, let me know. That's kind of where I'm at. Hopefully I explained it well. I got the thoughts out of the crazy brain up here. And I appreciate all the feedback from folks that commented and also reached out. Really helps doing this by myself and trying to figure it out. So thank you.